Thank you, Tracy. I think you sold the dream as far as property management with that, didn't you? So, and I can say the work that the ladies have done in our property management department's been incredible the last couple of years under pretty tough circumstances. So, okay, I get the pleasure of walking you through the residential sales market. So, what I'm actually going to go through today is our stats. And when you look at it, it's funny, when you look at our stats just on a week basis, it probably doesn't make too much or doesn't give you too much of an indication. But when you actually start to look at it and you look at previous years, it really starts for us, and we look at it each week at our sales meeting, it starts to, in essence, sing a little bit of a tune, and we can start to pick up very quickly what's happening with the market. So this is from our 4 offices, our stats. That's our sales team there. We meet every Tuesday. You won't be able to read my messy writing, but each week over the years I scribble down our stats that include inspections, offers, sales, properties that have been reduced in price, how many properties we're holding, etc. So I'm going to break that down a little bit more for you. First of all, just to give you at a local level, the sales you can see here for private, or the volume of sales, and whether it was private sale or auction. Once again, as I said, you look at it over a year, it doesn't mean much, but each year it does change. So you can see there a sharp increase last year in 2021 just in the number of properties that were sold across all suburbs, and then obviously 2022 that we're at now. A little bit of uncertainty starting to creep into the market, so you'll start to see, I think, the number of properties coming on is starting to, or has started to reduce, certainly during that winter period. And if you look at that, what are we, 211 for Muralbark? You know, we're probably on track for maybe around a 450, where last year it was 523. The other thing that's of interest is there's not a heap of auctions that happen out our way compared to the inner suburbs. Total sales, it's just the same, just combined. Gives you the numbers there. For Croydon had a big dip there, 570, and then up to 895 last year. And at this stage, we're over the middle of the year, or the first 2 quarters, 348. Median sale prices. So when COVID first hit, we all thought prices were absolutely going to plummet. But in fact, and I remember the same with the GFC. When the GFC was first being spoken about, and when it first hit, I remember selling properties for people that thought prices were going to, as they said, Greg, we'll sell now, we'll rent for 6 or 8 or 12 months, and then we'll buy when values have dropped and we'll get back in. And the reverse happened. And probably what it teaches in real estate is don't ever play the market, because no one predicted that prices would do what they've done. And you can see here for Muralbark from 2019, and this is the December quarter. So December 2019 to December last year, it increased 205. Lilydale up 158. Mount Evelyn up 186, and Croydon up 215. So, you know, that's during the pandemic. That is massive price growth over the last 2 years that the residential space has experienced. The other thing that was really noticeable, to give you an idea, back in 2019, and these stats that I'm giving you for our organisation, the number of properties we sold above $1 million was 21. 4 above 1.5 and 1 above 2 million. In 2020, 38 above $1 million, 7 above 1.5 and 1 above 2 million. And this will blow your mind. 21 above $1 million, 128. 31 above 1.5 and above 2 million, 9. So you can see all of a sudden it was like in essence last year, that $1 million barrier, it got absolutely smashed, and now almost $1 million is not, it used to be $1 million was sort of a bit of a ceiling. Now I'd say it's 2 mil is that new ceiling. That's how quick that's changed. I mean, that's substantial, that increase. Another thing, coming back to our numbers, average inspections per month for the first half of 2021. We averaged 1,650 buyer inspections per month. That's for our 4 offices. For the second half of 2021, 1,171 inspections. And you probably think, gee, it's a substantial. So just to go back there, during the month of March 2021, I reckon prices increased it was probably, there was a 2-week period there, and this is how quick the market can shift. We reckon prices increased 30 to 40, maybe $50,000 literally in the space of 2 weeks. We're running opens where at some of our opens we're getting 60 to 70 groups through our opens. So you were getting, in essence, you know, maybe if it was a couple, you might have 150 people through one home within half an hour. Like it was crazy. Normally in a normal market, probably 10 people through an open is probably standard. So that gives you a bit of a shift. The reason that's probably lower is simply the properties were coming on and they were selling that quick, and the volume of listings we were holding as well was lower during 2021. The first half of 2022, I think it's fair to say probably at the start of the year, I know there was a bit of a feeling, how long can this keep going? Surely it can't keep going forever. There was a few little starting questions to rise about interest rates and various things. So the first half we averaged 1,304 inspections. That was for the first half. Average days on market, 2019, 35.82. For November, December, bear in mind that's in the pandemic, the average days on market dropped to 17.3 days. Well, it was incredible. For all of 2021, the average days on market was 21 days. And the first half of 22, 31.6. So you can see it's starting to increase. Now, obviously, keep in mind interest rates. Dallas, when did they first start to go up? Was that about May or April? 4 months ago. So these things do take a little bit of time to have an impact. Since the second half of, so from the 1st of July to current, our average days on market, in essence, over the last 7 weeks has been averaging 42.3. So already we can see the market starting to pull back. Auction clearance rate this week was 71%, last week 68%, the same time last year 95%. I mentioned, you would have seen before that quite clearly the preferred selling method out our way is private sale. You very rarely, if ever, do you see any auctions. Probably it might be a more mortgagees or maybe a matrimonial or something like that. I know some agents do push the auction barrier, but overall private sale is definitely the way to go. And I think it's for a number of reasons. It allows all buyers to offer on different terms. So, you know, some buyers will need to make an offer to buy a property subject to finance. Some buyers can offer unconditionally. But to bid at auction, you have to be unconditional. You have to have your finance approved. So if there's first home buyers in the room, you will know that in essence, you can't go and bid at auction because the bank will say to you that we won't approve your finance until you've bought a property and signed a contract subject to finance, so they can then go and do a valuation. So so at least private sale, all buyers are able to offer. Subject to finance, different settlement. Obviously, they can offer whatever price they like. And you can put down, you know, varying deposits as well. Obviously, 10% is the norm, but sometimes a buyer doesn't have 10%. Sometimes they've only got 5%. So if they want, they can make an offer at 5%. Whether the owner chooses to accept that, that's another discussion. Flexible time frame, you're not locked into a date. And all buyers, as I say, get an equal opportunity to submit their best and highest price. If we do go down to, or get to the point where it is a multiple offer and we've got a number of buyers that are offering, the one thing is for buyers, they know that all offers are confidential. So no other buyer will know what the other buyer's offer will be. Negotiate, obviously, if it's just one buyer. We're at auction. At auction, what do you need for a successful auction? At minimum, you need 2 bidders. And I've ran auctions in the past, and it's pretty hard to run a good auction if you've only got one person bidding. Buyers can't get finance to bid. So that's why you'll see out this way. I think in a city, it's a different market. You're probably talking perhaps more cashed up sort of people out here. You know, a lot of first home buyer type market, a lot of mums and dads market, and simply sometimes you just can't get finance approved to be able to bid at an auction. Just want to give an example on a multiple offer, and this probably highlights largely why we recommend to anyone that we sell for that basically we would feel you're better to do private sale than auction. So this was a property that we had on the market up in Bailey Road, Mount Evelyn. We had it on the market $960,000 to $1,050,000. I think during the campaign, or it was only on the market for about 8 days, we had 20 groups through. Of the 20 groups through, we ended up with 4 offers. two of the offers came in the high 900s. But then we had the other two offers. One offer came in subject to finance of $1,121,000, which was an exceptional offer, well above the top end of the quoted range. But then we also had an unconditional offer come in at $1,117,000. So the beauty was both of those buyers got to offer, they got to put their best foot forward. Obviously one buyer had subject to finance, the other could do unconditional. The owners decided to take the unconditional offer. They felt that was a safer option. But if you go back to my scenario, that if that had have gone to auction, the offer that was at $1,121,000, they wouldn't have been able to bid at auction because they had to bid or only could offer subject to finance. And I think the other two offers that were in the high nines, they were subject to finance as well. So if our reserve was, let's say, at $1,050,000, or let's say the owner gave us even a reserve at $1 million, the buyer that bought it for $1,117,000, there would have been no way that those owners would have sold for that price. They would have sold substantially less. Another change in the market. So it was interesting when I prepared this, I looked at the presentation we did, which was in February of 2020. Towards the end of 2019, or actually during 2019, the market was starting to pick up. 2018 was a slow market. The market was starting to get a bit of confidence. And I was really interested to see the amount of sales that we did towards the end of 2019, early 20, that were what I would call pre-portal, so not actually making it onto realestate.com. And you can see there was a lot of sales there. I was actually blown away how many that we did. Some went onto Facebook, but the majority off our database. Then the market really started to ramp up, and in essence, then it became apparent that just because we may have a buyer or we might have two buyers, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the best buyer. So the advice we were giving to the owners is let's put it to market and let's market it 100% properly, because as I say, even though we may have a buyer, there's a fair chance that there might be another buyer out there, or coming back to that example, you might get 4 buyers offering and who knows what it would pay. So this is where the market shift, and this is the things we talk about at our sales meeting all the time, that negotiation and getting the best price for our sellers, a lot of it comes down to timing. A lot of it comes down to, has it been the first open? Have we got an open coming up this weekend? Do we introduce some buyers before it actually goes live to the market? And maybe a buyer might go, you know what, I'm going to actually offer $100,000 or $150,000 more to the owners to try and get it off the market before it actually goes on the internet, because I don't want to be under competition. And sometimes an owner may get a better price. But as the market changed, we were then advising owners, let's launch and run the full campaign. Recent pre-portal sales, I could only come up with about 3 or 4. So, here we were in the last couple of months of 19 and 20, we were doing a lot of pre-portals. Now over the last probably 18 months, pretty much probably since COVID, pretty much we've been advising owners to put it on the market. You never know what someone will pay. And just because we've got a buyer and we've got a database with well over 3,000 buyers that we're constantly SMSing, just because we've got a buyer on there doesn't always necessarily mean that it's going to be the best buyer. However, things are going to start to shift, and as this market starts to wind back a little bit, and you'll see some things, now this is where the shift will start to happen again, that we may start to see some pre-portal sales starting to happen. The property in Aberdeen Drive is a classic example. So this property got listed. It was on at 1 to 1.1. This is last week. So on at 1 to 1.1. Our team went through it on the Tuesday. One of our agents had a buyer that was on there that they'd been working with on their database. We actually had 2 buyers go through on the Tuesday night. It didn't go on the internet till the Wednesday. But by the Wednesday night, the people that went through on the Tuesday went back through, absolutely loved it, and they made an offer prior to our first open of $1.2 million. The property was vacant, $1.2 million, settlement 30 days, unconditional offer. Now that's a big decision for the owners to make, and these owners elected to accept that offer. They thought, you know what, it's an exceptional offer, the terms are really good, and they elected to accept the offer. And in essence, we used that forthcoming open, the fact that the property had only just gone on the market, as leverage to, in essence, get that offer that we're able to get. Now, whether the owners chose to accept it or not, that's their decision, but that's highlighting of how the market can shift. This is an example. I hope up the back can see. This is our last 20 sales. So just gives you, it's real data. These are the last 20 that have gone unconditional. Over here, you'll see this is the number of offers, that were on the home. So during the pandemic, we were probably averaging about 70 to 80% of our sales were under multiple offer. I think out of the 20 there, I think there's about 8 that had multiple offer. So you can see the list price and you can see the sale price. The majority are still selling towards the top end of the range. Some are still selling above. But when you had prices, as you saw earlier, with prices increasing 200,000 over the previous 2 years, over the last 2 years, we were selling them 50 to 100,000 quite often over, even more over the asking price. Just as an example, this one, a property in Watkins Crescent, Mount Evelyn, we sold this probably only about a month ago. It was on at 880 to 960. That sold for 980. It was only on the market for 9 days, and that had 4 offers. Property in Ross Pincott Drive, and I just want to talk on this one a little bit. So this was sold in May, and this is once again how quick the market can shift. 3-bedroom home. The owners had it presented absolutely. You could not fault it. Like it was perfect for a 3-bedroom home, beautifully presented, fastidious all the way through. We ran the open. We had about 30 groups through, and we ended up selling that for $1,520. Now, I would think if that property went on the market today, I don't think that would see $1,520,000. That would be probably more your $9 to $950, and that's probably how quick the market can shift. 5 offers we had on that. Talk a little bit on pricing. This one here in Morang Avenue in Croydon was listed at $795 to $850. We had it on the market for about 4 weeks. We were getting through our opens, 4 or 5 groups through the open. It was fair to say it was struggling, didn't get any offers, just no interest. We then reduced the price to $750 to $795. From that, Regina, you might know, how many did we have through the open? How many? About 17? 17 groups through the open in the first week. Ended up with 5 offers and ended up selling for $888,000. This is I'm only talking about a month ago. So pricing can have a big bearing on the result, and sometimes, and at the moment, I guess as things are shifting, and there might be some of you that are on the market at the moment thinking, gee, my home's not going as well or whatever. Just because you reduce the price doesn't always mean that you're going to sell at that price. You never know what can happen, and that's a classic example of just the difference of what price can be. To think that sold, what was it? It was on at 8 to 850, and we sold at 38,000 above the top end of the range, of which we couldn't barely get anyone through. So it just shows what competition can do amongst buyers when you get that. So COVID, obviously, I think it made all of us just reconsider our lifestyle. For many, it made them think where they want to live, not the need to live as close to the city, and I think that's why out here the Yarra Ranges and Maroondah has really benefited. Yarra Valley, without a doubt, saw huge demand. I think being locked up or closer into the city with the smaller backyards, all of a sudden to have a bigger home, bigger backyard, few trees, mountains, and the Yarra Valley on your doorstep, it's a pretty good place for us to live, and certainly when we were spending that in lockdown. Want for a bigger backyard. Small to semi and large scale acreage lifestyle properties, they experienced huge growth, huge demand. We did see a lot of sellers vacate Victoria and move to either move from, call it out here, either to regional or up to, quite often up north, up to Queensland. In fact, at one point, it was October, November last year, me personally, I had 6 of my vendors that were moving interstate, and majority were up north to Queensland, so you probably couldn't blame them, could you? During COVID, demand skyrocketed, seeing huge surge in prices. And this is the crazy thing that also happened. During the last big lockdown that we had, we actually sold 21 properties sight unseen. So it was incredible, to the point, because we didn't know how long lockdown was going to be. We ended up having our vendors take photos of the home, send them into us. Our photographer would then get them enhanced. We'd then put them on the internet. The owners would then run a Zoom open for inspection, and then we would then sell it sight unseen. And even us as the agents hadn't even walked through the home. It was crazy. That was the highest sale that we did, sight unseen. Property in Natalie Court, we sold that for just over $1.6 million. and I think we had, it was only, well, I say 4 days, it was literally not on long, and we ended up with 3 offers on that. So, you know, it was at all price levels that people were buying property without actually walking through them. Forecast to the end of the year. Look, no one knows, of course, but I think it's fair to assume that we're going to see further interest rate rises will occur. As Dallas said, buyers are being re-rated. So in other words, and we're seeing it now, where buyers, as an example, at the start of the year could perhaps borrow $700,000. Now that same buyer can only borrow, say, $600,000. So if you think of that, well, how does that impact the market? Even at the end of the day, if the demand of buyers stays the same, the simple fact is that a lot of buyers now don't have the spending capability that they had at the start of the year. So you would think that that's probably going to impact prices that they're going to pay. The pendulum has shifted. For the last couple of years, it's definitely been in the favour of the seller. I think it's probably back to more of a level playing field at the moment. Buyers are happy to wait. There's not as much urgency. So, you know, when the market was booming, we'd run the open, you'd have people literally almost lining up at your door Saturday afternoon. You know, I want to put an offer in. How quick can I get it in? And now they're going away. They might go and look at a few more. They might come back the following week. There isn't quite that urgency that we were experiencing. I reckon spring this year will be a very interesting period. And I'm just going to show you something about of when the last decrease in prices occurred, and that was spring 2018. So everyone, I guess the perception is that you wait till spring, the homes, you know, look their best, the flowers are out and everything looks great. But what people probably need to keep in mind, and if you're out there and you may be thinking of selling, is the market's driven by supply and demand. So the more properties that come on the market, and traditionally there's always more that will come on during spring, if the buyers decrease, well, in turn, that means, in essence, the buyers have got more choice, which you'll see prices reduce. Spring 2018 was probably the toughest market I've seen, probably in my selling career. I think during October, November, we saw prices reduce probably over that 2-month period by about $60,000. I'll show you why. So this is our listings for our organisation that we were holding over that 2018 period. So you can see here, you know, I know you can't see the months there, it's a bit small, but in essence, this is spring, this is December. You can see we got to probably about August, and then the volume of properties holding increased. I'll just show you for 2019, you can see the trend there. So we're coming off the 2018, stock levels starting to reduce. 2019, basically very similar. The same, and 2020 very similar. Those 3 years, so 19, 20, 21, is basically, if I looked at all of our graphs over the last 15 years, that would be pretty much how we would run as far as the volume of properties, how it would work. What's interesting though, this is currently at the moment. So as I say, it'll be a very interesting period, but you can see already we've gone from holding roughly about 75 to 80 properties for sale. Up here, I think about 2 weeks ago, it was about 105. We're at about 95 or 96 currently, and we're not into that spring period. So, you know, this is where, if you're thinking of selling, the advice we've been giving to sellers is I would be suggesting to perhaps look to do it sooner than later. I think if there is going to be further interest rate rises, if the buyers do start to pull back, and if we do get that surge of property coming onto the market, especially as spring progresses, it may not be quite as favourable selling conditions as perhaps what it could be now. Once again, though, who knows? And that's why I say it'll be very interesting just how this plays out this period. We're advising a recommendation to come on sooner than later. Another interesting thing that we're starting to see a little bit of a change is development. So it's still okay, but there are signs evident of prices just starting to come back for development sites. Obviously, build costs have increased substantially, and obviously the developers have got concerns, and we're starting to see the end product or the finished unit, the value of those just starting to peg back a little bit also. So what does that mean is that, well, effectively it should mean that the price that developers are now prepared to pay for dual lock sites or unit sites probably should start to come back. We haven't seen that yet. We've seen it marginally, but it is something that will be interesting to see how that plays out. What's interesting though, we've had a number of owners that have actually had plans and permits approved to build a unit, say in their backyard, or a developer was looking to do a development, and they've actually decided rather than build it, they've worked out that by the time they pay the build costs and build it and then finish it, there's actually probably no profit in it. So a lot of them have actually, or I say a lot, but we've actually had a couple now. We had one in Gordon Court where it was sold with approved plans and permits. The house needed a lot of work. That sold for $850, and then another one in Arnold Street, Kilsyth, where we sold that for $980. That house was all renovated and all done. But that's a shift. Never before would you see that. We're hearing build costs for townhouses anywhere from $550,000 to $600,000 for townhouses. So and then if you think, well, if your land value is probably worth say $350,000 to $400,000. In essence, it's probably only when it's finished it might be worth $850,000 to $950,000, depending on what you built. You don't have to be an Einstein to work out that there's no profit in it at that. If you're looking to buy, speak to Dallas or whoever your broker is, but have your finance approved and sorted. Know what your limits are. One thing just to keep in mind: finance approval is only valid for 3 months. So, and this will be very interesting. Any of these buyers that have gone and bought a development off the plan, and now it's, they bought it 12 months ago and now it's settling in 3 or 6 months' time, and back 12 months ago they had their finance approved. Some people may get caught because they've actually now got to go and reapply for their finance, and with interest rates coming up, they may not be able to get the same amount of money that they could, that they were approved for. So, especially if you're a first home buyer, keep that in mind. Your only approval is only valid for 3 months. While the market conditions may be shifting back to favour buyers, be sure to keep in mind that the new properties coming onto the market will be priced at the market level. So if you're a buyer and you're thinking it's all on our favour, and just don't get too carried away. There is still competition, and there's still a lot of buyers out there that are looking. I just say, just be careful. As I say, don't play the game too hard, because you just could end up missing out the home that you wish you had have bought. Get to know and build a relationship with, there's many of our team here, so I hear my team all the time talking to buyers, and it might be that the buyer that they've been working with is actually looking to buy a property that's not on the market with us, but that buyer will ring our team and ask, for our advice. Obviously, we can only give you certain advice for homes that we're selling, but if you're looking to buy and you've got a good relationship with our team, they'll give you advice. They'll even help you with negotiations if you're buying a property off another agent. Make sure you register to get our SMS or email alert. We're constantly sending those out. We put out over 35 to 40,000 SMSs a month to our buyer database. So if you're not registered, there's a form in there you can fill in to get those. And obviously keep in mind that stamp duty's got to be paid on top of your purchase price. If you're selling, presentation is king. I mentioned about that 3-bedroom home. Make sure that the better you can have it presented, the better. For all of our sellers, before we put any home on the market, Robin unfortunately couldn't be here. She's not well. But Robin is our home stylist. She has been looking after us or working for us for over 10 years. Every home we put on the market, we have Robin go in, no charge to our sellers. It's just something that we do, and Rob will help you get the property styled and presented. It makes our job easier, and I always think you only ever get one chance to create that first impression, so that's really important. And also we've got Fiona Walker from Perfectly Presented Homes. Home staging, if you're selling a vacant property, I reckon home staging at minimum is worth $20,000 profit to you as a seller. So, very rarely, if ever, would we ever put a property on the market empty. I think just for the sake of 2, 3, 4 grand, whatever it is to stage, it's definitely worthwhile. Be sure to have your home priced correctly in the market. I think that's important, especially if the market's pulling back. Then sometimes, and coming back to the market can shift quick. So if you try at a too high a price and you leave it there too long, just keep in mind the price that the market might pay today may not be the same price the market will pay in a month or two's time. That's how quick if things do change. We're not at that racy level yet, but things are certainly just starting to come back. You only ever get one chance to launch to the market, so create a good first impression. When you go on the market, that first 2 to 3 weeks is critical, and this is a graph, and this would be pretty much the same for every property. This is a summary of the activity of a property on realestate.com. And you can see when it first goes live, that's the first couple of weeks, you can see the activity is substantial. So what I call, and in essence, if you're going to get one of those amazing results, it's going to happen in that first 2 weeks, generally. Not always, but generally it'll happen in that first couple of weeks. Have your Section 32 prepared and ready to go. Nothing is worse, and especially where a market may start to pull back, nothing's worse when you've got a buyer that wants to offer, and then we've got to put the brakes on and say, hey, we can't actually legally take your offer until we get the Section 32. If the buyer's got to wait a week, the buyer's then going to get frustrated. They're then going to go around and maybe look at other things. They might see something else and you could have just lost your best buyer because you weren't prepared. So have your Section 32. We've got Christy and Emily from Yarra Rangers here. So they're local in Murrelbach. They'll be able to help you with the preparation of your Section 32. If you have some issues, or if you've got a home that's old, or you think, geez, I reckon I might have some structural issues here, or I'm not sure, I reckon I've had past pest issues or something like that, get a pre-sale inspection. So we've got Andrew and Rick here. They'll be able to, you can have a chat with them, but for the sake of getting a building inspection report done now, and at least knowing that it's all clear, that's better than rather than finding a buyer and then selling and then having an issue, or the buyer then wants a reduction or they pull out or whatever. You're perhaps better to suss that out before. So you can speak to the guys there if you need. Generally, a marketing campaign roughly will cost around $4,500 to $5,000. I think if you've got agents that are quoting you $6,000 or $7,000, even above $5,000, probably I think you've got to question whether they're trying to promote your property or are they trying to promote themselves. Just to give you an idea, you might think that's a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. Realestate.com, as good as they are, sadly have the monopoly on the market. They know there's no better company that knows how to increase or put down price increases. It's about $3,000 just for us to put a listing on realestate.com. So it's huge. And then you've got your photos, brochures, boards, and those sort of things. Not saying you should accept an early offer, but don't. A lot of people say, oh, it's only the first offer, we'll wait. Sometimes your first offer is your best. We had a sale recently that occurred where the owner had an offer within the first week at $695,000. The property was on at $630,000 to $695,000, or $635,000 to $695,000. The owner wanted to wait a week. He said, look, I'd like to run another open and see. We've only ran one open. That was fine, his choice. We felt it was a really good offer. It was an unconditional offer as well. That buyer ended up over that weekend, went and bought. And only 3 weeks ago, that owner has just sold for $630,000. So a very expensive lesson. So once again, they're things that, I guess, and it comes down to, our expertise. We'll give you our guidance. And one of the things, while you may have only been on the market for a week, there's a fair chance that buyer may have been looking for 2 or 3 months. So even though it's only been a week for you, the buyer's been in the market for some time, and they may, in essence, launch at it. And it could be your best offer. So just give thought to that, especially in a market now where it is starting to pull back. If you're looking to sell, test your agent, go around, visit them at open, see how they conduct themselves, listen to what they say, ask questions of the agent, what would the owner take, how long has it been on the market, why the owner's selling. They're all different things. Just listen to how the agent answers those questions, because sometimes agents will give away your money pretty quick by how they answer some of those questions. We train with our team all the time on how to conduct ourselves around that space. Ask the agent about their buyer management and negotiation process. We're constantly working and as a company always looking at that. Ask the agent, will they lower their selling fee? If the agent says yes, you might think, oh great, I'm getting a better deal, but you may have just hired the worst negotiator. So sometimes it's not always what it cracks up to be. Find an agent you feel comfortable with. I think that's the most important thing out of anything. At the end of the day, you're going to give the keys to your home, so make sure you find someone that you can trust and feel comfortable to have them inside your home. A question we get asked is, when should you sell? Look, there's two things. I think when it suits you, that's the first thing at the end of the day. That being said, I think if you're looking to do something at some point this year, my advice would be to probably look to do it sooner than later. But always remember, at the end of the day, if you buy and sell it, at the same time, the state of the market doesn't matter. And another little quote that someone said to me recently that I thought was good is that it's always a good market. It's either good for sellers or it's good for buyers, but either way, it's a good market. So, and look, I've given you my thoughts on the market. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. It'll be really interesting to see how this year plays out. Before I finish up, I just want to, there's a number of people that we've got here. We've got Andrew Craig Smith. If you can just wave your hand, Andrew, from IPI Inspections, so he can do your building inspections if you want to grab his card, if you're looking to buy or even sell. Rick Shaw, termite, timber and pest specialist. Emily from Yarra Rangers Lawyers. Robin couldn't make it, but if anyone wants their home or Rob to come out and even give them tips to, quite often we'll get Robin out 2, 3, 4, 5 months before one of our clients puts their home on the market. She'll come out and paint, say paint this, do that, let's get rid of that dressing table, whatever it is, and she'll give you that advice. Robin and Deanna from A Spark Insurance Brokers, so if you need anything to do with insurance for your home and properties, they'll be able to look after you. And Fiona Walker with sitting on the couch up there from Stage Home, if you've got a vacant property or a rental property you might be looking to sell. If you've ever thought about a career in real estate, our doors are always open. We're always looking, so please come and chat to us. In your show bags there, we would love to get your feedback on tonight. If you can just take a minute or two just to fill that out. Probably if you can just give it to one of the team members on your way out when you leave, that would be great. We try to give you as much info as you can, but we'd love to get your feedback on how you found it. And also in there, you can mark if you'd like to get any of our sales reports. We won't bug you, but newsletters, new listings emails, buyer alerts, some of you probably are getting those. If you're a builder developer and you want to be alerted to any development properties that we've got coming up, we'll SMS you those as well. So please hang about, and thank you for coming, and we wish you all well. Thank you.